Still waiting for it. There it goes.
There it
We're
is.
live.
All right.
All right, got you on that screen. Share once, and then I'll get it shared again. All right. I think everything's good. Are you all good?
We're all good. All good over here.
We're all good. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Ozzy of St. Anger Productions. I've got today interviewing We Are Branches.
That's right.
Howdy, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Doing great. It's a good day to be here.
It is. And so we already know We Are Branches. And so what's your name?
Yeah. So I'm Eric, and I'm kind of the, I guess you can call the founder of the band. But yeah. So it's kind of me. It's kind of it's an interesting story. So it's kind of me as kind of the solo artist, but I've also got myself a live band. A couple other guys join me when we're playing shows. A lot of the music you hear is kind of me doing all the instruments, and then as far as recordings go, and then I've got a live band. My bassist Adam and my drummer Brett help me out in the live performances. So, but with it being a Sunday, I was the one that made it out here today. So, yeah.
Okay. So I fully support local entertainment. However, local is not limited to just Tonkawa, Tulsa, or wherever. Local can literally be anywhere you're located. Local is your scene and it's your location. So, with that being said, tell me a little bit about what local means to you. What is your location and describe the local entertainment scene?
Yeah. So we're based out of Manhattan, Kansas. A town. It's a college town, about 50 minutes west of Topeka. And yeah, we're kind of home of K-State or Kansas State University, K-State. But locally here, it's an interesting music scene out here. We've got lots of bands, more like heavy, I would say, on the more like countryside, which is not a bad thing. But we have a handful of some good country venues. We used to have Country Stampede out here. I don't know if anyone is aware of a Country Stampede. Was here for a handful of years and then moved more to Bonner Springs area. But yeah, it's a scene where I think there's still a lot of growth left, a lot of growth to be had out here as far as more of those independent bands being given a shot to play. And there's a couple of venues that are still kind of popping up here and there. But, compared to some other small towns, I think Manhattan has lots of potential to host some bigger bands, smaller bands, everything in between. So, that's what local is out here.
Okay, cool. So, are there quite a few local or area bands right there in Kansas, or like what would you say the saturation is of within the local music industry there?
Yeah, there's honestly there's a couple, I would say, bigger quote unquote like bigger bands. We've got one band out here, Headlight Rivals. They just released a new album. Check them out, Headlight Rivals. And we've got a couple other bigger, like I would say more of like cemented local bands that you see a lot, like playing a lot of shows that have been around for a while, like a band called Funtabi. And there's a handful of like more local solo artists, but I don't know, it's an interesting scene out here. You've really like I said, there's a lot more I think to be done out here as far as the growth and the potential for the music scene out here. and we're seeing some more like festivals popping up left and right. And hopefully those festivals will bring in more bands and encourage local bands to just play, So, we've played a handful of shows out here with other bands, and up and coming local bands like the Ghost Racket. I'm thinking of one, like I said, Funtabi is another band. We've got some other good cover bands out here too. So a buddy of mine, actually my drummer, is in a local band called Monkey Business, and so they played a lot around here. So yeah, but it's fun. It's fun, but as you know, it's booking shows, finding bands to play. It's a lot of work getting your foot in the door. So that's what we've been working on as a band here, is getting our foot in the door. So
it does take a lot of work to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we're grateful for any venues that let us play. We're super grateful. So we played at kind of all around Kansas into like Kansas City, Missouri area. So we're making our rounds. So it's fun.
Oh, good. So you mentioned, there's some festivals that's popping up. Describe some of those festivals a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, there's one. It's a newish one. It's called Rock. Oh goodness, I'm gonna butcher the name. I believe it's hold on. I think it's Rock the Hills. No, that's not it. Oh goodness, as I'm because it was called something else, and then they kind of rebranded it. Let me look it up here, because I definitely want to promote them as a festival to check out. It's actually, they relocated it to a bigger spot this year, and it is called, let's see here. Oh, it's called Rock on Prairie Music Festival. That's actually taking place here in Manhattan, and they got a handful of big bands coming through. And again, it's not necessarily in my style of music, which is more like heavy rock and roll. Mm-hmm. So we're not playing there, but a lot of good bands that come through. Rock the Hills, Rock on Prairie Fest. And there's another one that actually we're trying to get into recently. We're actually, if you go on our Facebook page, we're trying to get voted in to play at another festival called, I'm going to butcher the name too. It's a new festival that I had never heard of, but if you see on our Facebook page, we're trying to get a couple votes for the Sonic Sunflower Festival this June. So voting is live right now, and so we're just kind of top 2 bands who get voted in. We'll get to play main stage there at Sonic Sunflower Festival, but we're excited to get any opportunities to play at established festivals and also new ones up and coming. So that's where we're at right now. We've applied for to get into a couple other like state fair festivals, like the Kansas State Fair, which we played at a few years ago. We're trying to get back in there. I think I applied for us to play at, I think, the Nebraska State Fair, and maybe even the Oklahoma State Fair, I think. So I just kind of put our name in, and if anyone grabs us, then we'll play. So
that's kind of what you got to do nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you don't have like a booking agent, or you don't have, I mean, you just got to say, hey, here we are. Here's our music. If you like it, give us a shot. And again, it's also about who you know, right? So that's why I'm always looking for other bands, far and near, who want to play with us. And, once we kind of get in with one band at one show, we kind of connect with them, and then they get us connected to other bands. And then you just kind of start making those connections. But it's a lot of work. But I enjoy it with everything else I'm doing in my life, being a husband, dad, full-time job, trying to find time to do all this. It's worth it though. I love doing this stuff. I love it.
Absolutely. So it is worth it. Definitely. Forgot to turn my brightness up. All right. Yeah, my phone screen dimmed a little bit. I was like, forgot to turn that up. what about like playing in front of promoters? Do you think, do you secretly wish that you could have promoters show up at all your shows and start listening to your music too? Would that help you, or would you
Sure. I
prefer
mean,
just reaching out to bands?
yeah, I'll take any help. You know, if yeah, absolutely. If there's a promoter at a local show or venue, absolutely. You know, um, wherever we can play is and how our name gets out, I really don't care. You know, if someone's willing to kind of
Think,
go to bat for us, excellent. You know, so absolutely, absolutely.
well, that's going to be the whole purpose of what I do is, let let you guys, the local industry, and not just bands, but promoters, recording studios, stuff like that. Put yourself out there. You know, it's a platform that free advertising saying, hey, here I am. Come check us out.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you never know. You might be watching, one of the later interviews and it's a recording studio or something like, hey, that, a big venue or something, look for a band. You never know.
yeah.
Um,
And
like I
everything
did
is
one.
so, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it. And I did one of these interviews a couple weeks ago for a free family festival down in um, Stigler, Oklahoma, called Rock the Equinox.
Okay.
That they do a lot of local bands from all over the area. And in fact, this year they had 80 something submissions, and they
Nice.
can only choose 19.
Okay.
You're putting yourself out there,
Yeah.
Yeah, you was going to say something though.
I was just gonna say, I mean, especially everything is so everything's on social media now too. So I mean, you just got to really be kind of on all the platforms, and if you're not, then I think you're missing out. But joining the different Facebook groups and seeing who's posting on what, and maybe a band's like, hey, we need someone to play with us in 3 weeks. Is anyone available? And just hey, we'll play. And or like I found you on a Facebook page, and I said.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about really being persistent in the social media world and taking a chance on there and just putting your name out there. And just if no one responds, just keep going. Like, I mean, just it's kind of like a job interview. If they don't respond, then just apply for the next place. I mean, I got nothing to lose, so.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to tell us. Don't be afraid of the word no.
No. I mean, I know our music's not for everyone. I know our sound's not for everyone. I get that, and then that's okay. Initially I didn't do this to start playing shows. I put out an album of songs I had written, and a couple buddies of mine were like, hey, do you want to start playing those songs live? And I was like, well, sure. I mean, so my buddies, again, Adam and Brett, they, just encouraged me, and they said, we like what you recorded, so let's start doing some of this. And I was like, all right. And then it just kind of built from there, and here we are 4 years later playing shows here and there. So I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Oh yeah. So how far is your reach, and how far are you willing to actually take your music?
Like you mean geographically or I mean,
yes.
I'm willing to, yeah. I mean, it's I mean, I mean, I'll go anywhere. Honestly, I'll go anywhere. It's a matter of can my other band and my friends help in the process. I mean, so it's hard. We got me and my band. We all have families and kids and wives and jobs. So it's always hard to be like to get things to line up for everyone. But so geographically, I would say this Kansas and the surrounding states is ideal. But hey, if we got a show in Australia, I mean, we'd probably consider getting out there if we had the invite. But music, as far as music goes, I'm willing to promote our music anywhere it goes. We're on a couple of radio stations in Kansas City, and we're but heck, if we're being played in a radio station in Minnesota and they invite us out, I mean, hey, it's something we'll consider. But booking and playing shows with families is definitely it just takes a lot of juggling, which is understandable. So
Absolutely. So got to do a little plug here when it comes to the media and radio outlets. Marshall Rock Radio. It's internet-based radio. The lady I interviewed her a while back ago, Jamie Missler, Marshall Rock. She actually has listeners from literally all around the world. And one of the bands I interviewed the other day, they're played on there quite a bit, and they've got people that listen to them from literally all over the world.
Great.
So just
Marshall
a quick plug right there.
All right, Marshall Rock. I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, Marshall Rock.
Excellent.
Yeah, most definitely. So while you do that, I'll ask this one. How did you get into music? And you said you play, do multiple stuff. What all instruments can you play?
Yeah, so I play, so on, the songs you'll hear on Spotify, Apple Music, like the recorded music, I did all the instruments. So like all the guitars, bass, drums, vocals, lead guitar, rhythm guitar. So that's all me on the recordings. And my first actual instrument was saxophone, the alto saxophone. I picked that up in 5th grade, and then kind of learned, I guess, the basics of music from there. And then my parents got me guitar lessons my 8th grade year. I took about 6 months to a year worth of guitar lessons. And then around the same time that I picked up guitar, an old buddy of mine, he taught me that my first drum beat. He had drums in his basement, and I remember it was during a Super Bowl. My family was over at his house for a Super Bowl party, and we're in the basement watching the game. And he's got a drum set, and I'm just kind of drawn to it. Teaches me my first beat, and that was it. I was like, this is awesome. And so I just kind of did a lot of like air drumming in my spare time. I like in my jazz band, I would get there early. I was playing saxophone in the jazz band, but I would get to practice early just to play on the drums, just to like learn parts. And I mean, just kind of went from there. And just so kind of at the same time, drum, saxophone, guitar, it all kind of like started around 5th through 8th grade and just took off from there. And I was always interested in recording music, always interested. And so I was always recording some like crappy demos on like my family's old desktop computer on like who knows what recording software that was. And so I always like to lay down an idea and just listen to it and just be like, this is awesome. And so and that just kind of kept growing. I had a few bands here and there I was a part of in high school, and then and then kind of around I think I recorded my first album in 2020, I want to say 2021, kind of around COVID time, and recorded that at a studio in Topeka called Rofo Records. Little plug, Rofo Records, ROFO Records in Topeka. Somebody out there named Barry. He's an incredible producer, and so I just Googled his name, or Googled like local recording studios. His name popped up. I messaged him, and the rest is history. He did my first album, my second album, and it started on the 3rd album. So that's kind of how it started, really. And I'm just lucky. I'm blessed to have a local recording studio, a guy I trust, and so yeah.
So you said you had started back in middle school, right now in jazz band.
Yeah.
How important do you think jazz has been to your growth and to your musical ability? If that's a word, musical ability.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pivotal. I think having the ability like to read music, I think helped. Like reading music, aside from like guitar tabs, like just knowing like, oh, that's a quarter note, oh, that's an eighth note, or whatever. And then just understanding how everything fits, on how multiple instruments fit, and sometimes one instrument needs to be in the background while the other instrument like takes the lead, which is similar in like a rock band, right? It's not always loud all the time. Sometimes you got to use your dynamics and soften and so absolutely. I think I played jazz. I played from 5th grade with the saxophone, and then I played all through college. Actually, in college, I was in the jazz band in college, and that really pushed me to the next level. I don't play saxophone too much anymore, um, yeah, I don't think I'd be where I am musically without saxophone and without just that base layer of like music theory. So absolutely.
Definitely. Yeah, my experience with jazz, it one of the big aspects that I see where it's very beneficial is learning the improvisation and learning how to just carry on. Who cares if you miss a wrong note? Just make it like it's part of the song.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Had a lot of solos, saxophone solos, and sometimes you just had to go with it. I mean, I wished I knew. I wish I dove more into saxophone as far as like more like music theory and just I wish I was better. I guess I should say that. But yeah, I mean, just the improvising and the solos and just kind of going with it. I mean, yeah, you just got to be confident, and if you said it's wrong note, just keep going, keep going. So.
Yeah, I mean, because when it's a improvised solo, is there really a wrong note? I mean, I could understand wrong key, but
Sure.
is there really a wrong note? I'm a drummer, so I hear the beats and grooves, rhythm, stuff like that. I don't pay attention to the notes and scales and everything. So, is there really a wrong note in in an improvised solo like that?
I mean, I would say yes and no. I mean, I think sometimes the wrong note is intentional, right? A lot of jazz musicians will like intentionally play a wrong note, but in some way it fits. So yeah, I mean, I would say sometimes there's, and obviously you're like, oh, he probably wasn't meant to play that, or but in general, sometimes you're hearing a solo and you're like, God, those notes don't even sound right, but it fits perfectly. So I think
The
that's
execution of it.
yeah, exactly. So I was listening to a guitar solo a few weeks ago, and the guy hit a wrong note, but he's so good that he corrected himself perfectly to make it fit. And you saw his face like, oh, that's wrong, but he adjusted, and it was beautiful. So yeah.
And sometimes though, you got to grab that mallet and push the round peg into the square hole.
Exactly. Yeah.
Make it fit.
Yeah, I think that's music in general. Sometimes you gotta expand your thoughts. You gotta expand your comfort, like how comfortable you are, and be like, I'm gonna stretch. I'm gonna stretch myself here and see if this works. And sometimes that's been some of my best songs that I've written, is when I'm just like, I don't know what I want to do, but let's just give this a shot. And then out births a song. So.
Mm-hmm. So described a little bit of it. Is there anything else you could add to your musical background? Like,
Yeah.
some of your bands that you played in and stuff like that?
Yeah, I had a little high school band. I mean, it's always been like heavy rock and roll. I like heavy rock and roll. And growing up, my dad and I would listen to kind of the classics like Boston, REO Speedwagon, Led Zeppelin. Went to a couple of Cheap Trick shows growing up. I mean, so it was always just rock and roll. And so I would say that's where it all kind of, as far as where I knew I wanted to like pursue like a band, was rock and roll. And I got into heavier stuff. In college, I got into like more like the heavy, like scream your face off music. And then from there, I just, so in a couple of my songs, I scream, and I'm not very good at it. But when I started hearing that in college, and I was like, goodness, this is incredible. I knew I wanted parts of that in my song. And so heavy breakdowns and, just like, that stuff gets me going. So I always knew I wanted to integrate rock and roll plus some heavy stuff, and then kind of bleed it and a message, right? Lyrically, lyrics mean a lot to me. So I wanted to integrate rock and roll, some heavy breakdowns, and like good lyrical content, and then kind of put it all together. So that's kind of what got me where I am today.
Man, could you imagine instead of a heavy breakdown, do like a saxophone breakdown? Right in the middle of a hard song.
I've thought about it. yes, I've always like I should integrate the saxophone. And there's a band growing. Oh, goodness. In college there was a band. It was like a jazz trio, but it was like a metal jazz trio. So it was like a tenor saxophonist, a drummer, and a bassist. And I couldn't recall the band's name, but that was like heavy metal jazz. It was awesome. So I should integrate saxophone into the show and into our shows or in the studio. I should. I don't know why I don't, but I need to do that. So you're encouraging me to do it. So
It'd be fun to hear.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that sometime.
Yeah. Well, I got to buy a sax. I sold my saxophone a while back. I was going through a interesting time in my life, so I had to sell my saxophone that I had for many, many, many years. So I need to buy one, and I can get a cheaper one, but I need to buy one, see if I can still do it, see if I can still play it, and I'm sure I could. I played for a long time, so I'm sure it's like riding a bike. Yeah, definitely I need to do that. So done.
So, hell yeah. So, how do you see your future in music? Like, where do you see your career going? Some of the things you're wanting to obtain, like goals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to keep recording music. Like I said, I'm kind of started the third album already. I've got a song already recorded, and I've got more time going back to studio, I think in June, to record some more songs. So definitely want to keep recording, and would like to kind of play some more shows in like the bigger cities. Like I said, Kansas City is kind of where we've kind of are pushing to play more shows, but so more shows if possible. And then I don't know, just getting more, I guess, our name out there in some capacity. Like I said before, lyrically, lyrics mean a lot to me, and so I want people to be, I suppose, encouraged by some of our songs. Our little tagline on Spotify or Apple Music, it says like, we write songs to help people find light in dark places. So a lot of my songs are about hope and about keeping your head up and go in the roughest times of life, in the times where you are not really sure what you got left. It's about pushing through those times and coming out on the other side stronger, better, with more confidence, more hope. And so I would love for our songs to get more radio play, and for people just to be like, hey, that song helped me through that dark time of my life. And so that to me, I think, is even more important than shows and about how many come to our shows. It's about are people being impacted by what we're recording, by what they're hearing. I think that's kind of where we're at. Obviously with jobs and kids and wives and families, it's sometimes you forget, oh, I'm in a band too. Like we're also in a band. Like it's been a minute since we played a show, but that's kind of our goals. I don't think we'll ever do this full time. By career, I'm a licensed social worker. So I like my career, as do my other band members, so I don't see quitting social work anytime soon. But also certainly what I do in my career motivates like the things I write and the things that I speak about in the songs. So, yeah.
So I'll jump ahead a little bit then to one of the upcoming questions. When it comes to writing lyrically, do you write like personal experience? Do you write experience through other people's eyes, like being that social worker, or do you just kind of write what you think life would be like going through some of that?
No, I mean, it's definitely through personal experience. I had a 2018, 2019 was a really hard time in my life. Really hard, awful time of my life. And so my first album that we have called Lighter by the Light, that whole album, most of it, well, not all of it, a good chunk of it was written as a result of that time of my life. some of the songs I had written many years prior and just wanted to put them out finally. But then our second album, Scream Your Name, that's still very personal, but it's also about relationships I have with people, and kind of I write songs that are motivated by other people's experiences. And as a social worker, I see a lot, I hear a lot. And so definitely, some of the songs are written for other people, kind of like my response to them, like what I would say to them. And so I put that in a song and I say, hey, you kind of inspired the song. Like our first song on our first album, Inch by Inch, my bassist, Adam, he said something to me when I was going through a really rough time. And he's like, just kind of go like, you'll get through this, like inch by inch, you'll get through this. And that his words to me, like really spoke to me. And I was like, that's be a great song. And so I took his words and put them into a song. But sometimes things my kids say, or my wife says, or my friends say, I'm like, wow, they're struggling with something, and I want to write something because I think that's relevant. I think their struggle is what other people struggle with. So let me write something that maybe can encompass not only their struggle, but maybe like a societal struggle. So, so it's hard for me just to sit down and just force a song. So I would say all my songs are either personal or drawn from a life experience in some capacity, if that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll get back to the other half of that question in a little bit. Is this the only project you have, or do you have any other projects that you have going on behind the scenes?
No, this is it. This is it. Really, I had released like my first album ever was released under my name. Back in 2000, I want to say 2013, maybe. I released a little album it's like under Eric Martin, and there's a couple of Eric Martins on like Spotify and Apple Music, and so my album got like attached to like a different Eric Martin's, who was like a more famous Eric Martin, and so a lot of people were buying my album thinking it was like this other Eric Martin's album, and they were all like, this doesn't sound anything like this guy, and this sucks. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, So, but I would say, that was pretty fun when that happened. But actually, some of those songs that were on that first album under my legal name, I'm trying to take those songs, re-record them, and put them on this next album. So no, I guess We Are Branches is my only project, with a previous project under my legal name. That's that.
Okay. And remember, if you find the Eric Martin, there's a good chance that it might still be connected with another artist by the name of Eric Martin.
That's right.
So don't go taking that glass of water and take a swig of it just to find out it's Coke.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, that's horrible. So, all right. What would you say your mission statement for the band would be?
Mission statement. Yeah. I mean, again, I've been through a lot, as many people have, right? So I would say my mission statement is, we exist, like we write songs to help people find light in dark places. So our mission statement, I would say, is to, it might sound cheesy, but keep your head up amidst the dark times in your life. I tell a lot of my clients too, sometimes, like, hey, if I can get through X, Y, and Z, like, I know you can, right? And I know different things happen to different people. And I'm not saying that you have to just put on a smile and be like, all right, well, my life's falling apart. Like, it's okay. But goodness, like finding hope and looking for hope and looking for like the cracks of light coming through, like in those really hard times in your life. I would say that's like our mission statement. It's just like, keep your head up, keep pushing forward. And I promise you you will find the other side. Like, I promise you will come out of this in some capacity. And so and I talk about that, during shows. I have like a quick little like, hey, we're a band, but also, check our music out. If you're ever going through a hard time in life, maybe one of our songs might encourage you. So, so I try to kind of promote that during shows too, not just like scream lyrics and, rock out and, do heavy breakdowns. I want people to leave with some sort of hope. So
Heavy breakdowns and heavy moments.
that's right. There you go. Yes. I like that. That's good. That's good.
Man, today's a good day for me. Just full of all kinds of good ideas.
I like it.
And it's on camera. Crap. I'm busted.
Yes.
So, I mean, yeah, you're absolutely right though. Keep your head up. We will make it through it. I've been going through some dark times myself, and sometimes it's nice just hearing a song that you can connect with, and being that it's not no offense, I absolutely love Citizen Soldier, and some of the messages in their music, but to hear somebody like We Are Branches, knowing hey, they're local and they're not really too far away from me, that means a little bit more.
Yeah.
It means that they're that much closer to being the real people versus some big name artist.
Yeah. And that's that's when I connect most to artists, is when I have some sort of connection to them, where like lyrically, if I can connect to this artist lyrically, then I can connect to them even more musically. But yeah, it's if I don't really see what you're talking about, like if I don't connect to it, not that it's a bad song, but if I don't connect to it, I have trouble. Like if all you write about, it's not a bad thing, but if all you write about is like girls, relationships, and like, love, like for me, I just don't connect to that as much as an artist who like talks about, real life, hardships or, so, and that's, I think, the beauty of music is, what connects you to an artist, and what keeps you going back for more, and seeing how what like albums, like how they, you can tell maybe they were, a theme of one album differs greatly than the theme of the next album, but like being on, I don't know, kind of going with them through that journey. I don't know. To me, it's just fascinating. That's why I love like watching bands record, like when they do documentaries and they talk about the albums, or they do, like I look for interviews for bands just to like get insight into their writing process and what did they mean by this song. And so to me, that's exciting. And what keeps me, listening to those bands.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely, it's, there's times that you can watch a band, you grow up with a band, and, like me, I grew up with Skillet, and, to be able to watch, per se, this one band throughout the decades, God, I feel old now, but watching throughout the decades, and, over on this side, it's one thing, but then, once you get over on the other side, it's something entirely different. And then, being that you've been following them all that time, that right here is when something has happened.
Yeah.
Things like look at Metallica when they lost Cliff Burton. That was a tragic turning point for them that only made them stronger, I think.
Yeah. And you said Skillet, right? Skillet, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, Skillet, man.
Yes.
That brings it. Yeah, I mean, they've been around for forever. I love that guy's voice, and but yeah, I mean, that's a perfect example of a band that kind of, if you stick with them from like, I mean, you kind of are, I don't know, a part of their life story. I don't know. So it's, I mean, like, or bands like DC Talk and other bands kind of in that genre. I think you're, I don't know, you get to be part of that story as they do different chapters in their musical career. So. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how do you write musically? Do you write just typical rock riffs, or do you try and keep things like really melodic or time signatures, stuff like that? Or describe a little bit of your music writing for us.
Goodness. I mean, I think it's kind of everything you just talked about. I mean, usually it starts with a riff. Like I'll be in my basement and I'll play something. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. And then from there, I'll build a song off just a 3-second riff that just kind of came out of nowhere. And so from there I finished the song, and then at the same time I'm like thinking about drum parts while I'm writing, like, all right, well, what can the drums sound like? And then lyrics usually come at the end. But as far as like musically, I usually try to, being a drummer, like I try to like a lot of my drum parts like mirror or match my guitar parts, right? I'm not just kind of a standard, just just doing 4 on the floor. I try to have it all kind of very like the instruments talking to each other, and so I definitely like my drummer playing, like when we play live, he's like, man, like, how did you come up with this? How did you come up with this part? And so it's fun, like, hearing his feedback on some of the songs. So I'm really a dynamic like artist. And so even different time signatures, yeah, I'll throw in a 3/4 here and there. I'll throw in a 6/8, in the middle of a 4/4, So I mean, I like doing some of that stuff and just keeping the listener guessing, like what is that, So, and it keeps me, I don't know, on top of my game, and so, but sometimes my songs, like after I record them, like playing them live, it's like, I don't know if this song is going to be good live. Like there's too much going on here. And so there's been some songs on our albums that we've never touched live because it's too much. So, but maybe that's just me being, I don't know. I get too like
biased,
I get biased, or I get nervous. Or I'm like, well, no one's going to like this song because it's just too much going on. But I should, I don't know, I should be more confident in myself, but that's kind of how I write. Well,
that make for a really interesting concert experience, and to not do it all the time, but every once in a while do a concert that's previously unsung stuff. You hear it on the album, but you don't hear it on in the show.
Yeah.
And have a show that's nothing but that. Which you can't, as a band, you can't just play every song that you have written. You have to pick the ones that really stand out to people or become popular, requested a lot, stuff like that, and build your show on that.
Yep.
Which really leaves your other songs as like a B-side.
Yeah. And there are songs that we play live that aren't on any of the albums, so we kind of do it like a reverse, like, so yeah, I mean, it's an interesting mix, and then, but yeah, and then just finding time to practice those songs with the band, like that's a whole another thing. Like, oh, here's a new song, like we got to learn that on top of practicing for our next show, on top of practicing for, so it's finding time to do all that. Can be a bit taxing, but enjoyable.
For sure. So when it comes to writing some of these more intricate parts, do you feel that it helps the song that you're the one playing all those instruments on the recording? So as you write the song and memorize the song, that you have that opportunity to write all the parts and make it cohesive? Or do you think that doesn't really mean anything? Like, how do you feel about that, being able to do all that together?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a challenge. I mean, sometimes I'll have a song that's so intricate that playing live, I have to like, I can't play this live and sing. I can't play guitar and sing this part. So sometimes I shoot myself in the foot because it's too much, or I'll simplify it with the band. I'll be like, hey guys, you know what? Scratch the recordings, like scratch these 10 seconds. Let's like rewrite this for the live because it's not working. Or I just can't play it. So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers your question. Sometimes I do too much. And I just, it's fun in the studio, but live, it's not working.
So when it comes to your your buddies playing with you for the live shows, do you give them, how much freedom do you give them to for their own parts? Like, do you make them just stay as close as they can to what you did, or do you give them a lot more freedom, or somewhere in the middle?
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the middle. I don't want like a brand new song coming out of like the recorded song. But yeah, I mean, I trust them very much. I mean, gee, we've been friends for a long time, and so I trust them generally. And so, but if there's a part where I'm like, oh, I don't like, hey, like, what did you play there? And they're like, give me like, adjust that a little bit. But man, they're great musicians. They're trustworthy, and I love them. So I never I'm not that picky. I think if I'm picky with anyone, it's our drummer, and Brett could speak to this. Like, I'm like, yo, Brett, you're slowing down, or hey, Brett, like, what are you playing there? So I have fun with Brett because he's but he's been playing drums for a long time, so he knows exactly what he's doing. But I have fun with him during practice a lot.
It's fun having fun with drummers,
Yeah,
and especially
absolutely.
drummer to drummer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
And, here's what I like to ask the drummers. Do you kind of keep to the stereotypical vibe that a lot of drummers kind of become sound techs as well? Or do you just stick with the music and leave that for the others?
Can you ask that one more time?
It's kind of a stereotype that we, the drummers, kind of tend to venture off into doing sound equipment as well. Have you fallen into that, or you just leave that for all the other drummers?
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not too heavy into like the sound production. Like, you mean like, yeah, that's not really my. No, yeah, I stay in my lane and let everyone else kind of do that part.
I'll do that for you then.
Yeah,
Because I've listened to interviews and all sorts of stuff, and it asking other the audio engineers and sound techs, like, where'd you get your start? Well, it started way back decades ago that I was a drummer in church, and that was a lot of them is in church.
mm-hmm.
And so,
yeah, and I should have said that too. That was a big part of my growing up too, is playing in youth groups and playing like in different churches and playing, so that's kind of, if I didn't have any of that either, like, I don't know, because right when I started playing drums, I like joined my youth group band, and then like I just kind of like went from there. I'm like, all right, well, I'll play this and I'll play that, and yeah, so yeah.
And if you can play in front of a congregation, I think you can play in front of anybody.
Absolutely.
Some of the pickiest people.
I agree. Yeah. So I mean, very very true. Hey, that's too loud. Like, oh, I don't, too fast. So.
Or clapping on the off beats is like, really?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Clapping on 1 and 3. No. So.
It doesn't work. I don't know. Yeah. They're non-musicians, so.
I agree.
Oh. So, how about some of the key points in your journey, things that you've done that's worth mentions that most people usually don't have a chance to get to do, or whether it's most people or even a lot of your local musicians? Like, what are some highlights that you've had?
Excuse me. Highlights. Like musically or personally?
Both. I don't care. Specifically musically, but if if you've had any really good highlights personally, go for it.
I think highlight for me was putting out that first album. Those are songs that I had like a lot of a good portion of the songs were written when I was going through the hard time of my life, but a lot of the songs have been I had written like in college. Like I've had these songs like going in my head for years and years and years, and I knew what I wanted them to sound like. I knew what drums, I knew what I wanted the drums to sound like. And so putting that album out was just like I can't believe I did this. And what was even more crazy was like, I would go into the studio and like, I don't own a drum set. Well, I do now, but I didn't own a drum set. So like a lot of these drum parts, they were just in my head. And so I had to go in the studio and be like, all right, like, here's a drum part I've had in my head for 7 years. Let's go. Let's do it. And like, hearing these songs that I had just created in my head for so long, and finally hearing them like back, it was very like euphoric. And even to this day, when Barry sends me a rough mix of a new song I recorded, I still like, it's so exciting. Like just to hear what's been in here for so long. So that's definitely a highlight, the first album. And then another highlight was probably playing at well, we played a lot of good shows, but like just playing at some of the like cool venues, like in Topeka, like it's called the Booby Trap in Topeka. Playing our first show in Kansas City at the Mini Bar was fun. Playing at the Kansas State Fair was fun. So like some of these shows, it's just been fun. And then highlights, getting some like radio time and just seeing that happen. You know, it's just fun. It's fun. So, and then my buddies, you know, Brett and Adam being like, hey, like, we want to play with you. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, really? Okay. I mean, I guess, like, let's start playing. So just having those guys believe in my music and encouraging me it's been a good highlight.
Sounds like they're a major blessing in your life.
Definitely. Yeah.
So this one's always fun when to get people thinking. So without going into details regarding hot topics such as politics, religion, or any other debatable hot topic, describe the morals of both yourself and as an artist.
Yeah. You know, I would say, as just kind of like my stance on like life, I would say, I like as a social worker, but even just as a person, like I find like joy and purpose in helping other people. Like, so morally, like that's where I go. Like, how can I help people today? And even with my kids, like really focusing on like other people and like how do you think your behavior is, like, how do you think that made your sister feel, like, in saying that? Like, was that, like, we need to think about other people when we do things. And so, like, morally, yeah, just like treat people, like, be nice. I don't know. And, and I grew up in a pretty religious home. And so, thankfully, I think so for me, I think having that base of like, treating people with respect, and looking for the good in things, I think has been a huge blessing for me as well. And being kind of raised in like the like within like the youth group world and having the music there, and I think that was super impactful for me. And that's all, I've kind of made it my own. And I went to like a Christian university, a Christian college, and so that kind of impacted me as well with like how do I help people instead of just making it all about me? So I think all that stuff, that's where I lie, as just an everyday person. What can I do today to help someone else?
Nice.
Yeah.
And so how about as we are branches? Or is it about the same?
Yeah, I definitely about the same. I think my music, like, is a direct, like, it mirrors kind of my life, I mean, so lyrically and, how we present ourselves and how I present myself on, on social media or at shows, I mean, I hope we give off the vibe that like, hey, we're like, I'm here to, play a show with you. And I hope you do well and, be nice and just be cordial. I don't know. Like, I don't have any desire to be like a mean person and be like all like about me. It's all about me, like my show, my music, so yeah, I'm just here to have fun and here to encourage other people, other bands, and yeah, that's where we lie.
Nice. Crap, there it is again. I was going to say something and it just slipped my brain. So yeah. Just show compassion and whatnot for fellow human.
Yeah, exactly. Like. So yeah. I figure if I can help, that's just, and it doesn't mean I'm better than you, because that's my that's where my moral code is, but I think just kind of how I was raised, and that's kind of what kind of influenced my career choice, and then where I am today.
Okay. So you go play a show with this other band over here, and it's just you're there having fun, supporting each other, and you're not seeing it as a competition of who's better or whatever.
No way.
Unless
No
it's Battle
way.
of the Bands.
No, I was the Battle of the Bands. Yeah. No, I mean,
Good as a friendly competition.
yeah. I mean, I know they're working as hard as we are. I know they write music for for whatever reason they're writing it. Like, I respect that, and who am I to say like, oh, well, your music's terrible? Like, what are you doing here? I mean, so no, I think it takes guts and it takes courage to go on stage and play your heart out, and then in front of a crowd of one or in front of a crowd of 1,000. So just takes guts, and I respect all the bands that we've played with, all of them.
Absolutely. So you mentioned being nice, of course, but social media. You mentioned social media earlier. One of the big things that we see nowadays are people on their pages just the personal profiles just tearing each other down over nonsense, personal beliefs or the way they do things, whatever. So social media can destroy, but it can also promote. When you go to a show such as Creed and somebody in the audience has multitude of followers more than the band, one TikTok or one Facebook live video can have a bigger impact than the band.
Yeah.
So it can have its blessings too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to combining the two, do you think, we'll just use as an example, Eric's profile over here. Do you think what Eric does in their own personal time and on their own personal profile could affect what happens over here with this band, We Are Branches?
Absolutely.
Do you think there's a...
Oh yeah. I mean, you can just see it even just in like regular, someone can get fired from their job for what they post on their personal Facebook, so I think that plays, whether or not you agree with it, well, they shouldn't have gotten fired, but like, I don't know, like everyone's watching, everyone's looking, nowadays, I think employers look, like if you apply for a job, like they're going to look for, they're going to like Google your name and see what you're like on Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And if you're posting God knows what, then they may not even interview you because like, well, I mean, we don't want this kind of employee around here. So for me, I mean, I don't post much on my personal Facebook. But yeah, I mean, it's all connected, right?
it is.
So, I'm not one person in the band and then I'm a completely different person at home. I'm not a, I don't treat my wife like garbage and then go to work and put on this, I'm like, oh, like, nice to see you. Like, I try to be, yeah, I represent, well, whatever the word is, I'm the same here at home that I'm at work, that I am on stage. At least I try to be, I have faults, but
we all have our faults. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I try to be honest and I'm an open book. So, and as a therapist, I wear my heart on my sleeve. My wife can talk to it. I can be an emotional guy. So, that's why she loves me, I guess.
And being a therapist, you can see through other people's, well, like, my therapist has actually called me out several times, that's bullshit. Try it again.
Yeah.
But as a therapist, you learn to see things like that.
Absolutely.
But now, so there it is again. I was going to say something. God, I suck getting old.
It's Sunday, it's a Sunday afternoon, that's what happens.
Yes. So that's what it was. Thank you. So like personally, when I'm looking for, finding bands to book at a show or for other events or whatever, yeah, I'm going to get on there and, see, I'm going to do some homework, is this person going to be a good fit to play my show or, what's their following like? Is this guy or this girl or whoever going to get on here and drive away all my business, who am I supporting to, bring ticket sales? Or
Yep.
who am I supporting that would potentially harm those ticket sales?
Right. Yeah, I think that's all.
But,
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Certainly, I don't want to just play with any and all bands. Absolutely. I'm kind of, because I had a band reach out to me recently and they want to play with us. And I was like, oh, that's like, I like it when a band reaches out to us. Like, hey, we heard you guys. Like, do you want to play with us? And so my first thing is, well, A, yeah, let's listen to the music. And B, who is this band? And then so yeah, I'm gonna do some research. But generally, I mean, I'm getting all thumbs up. But if they're Instagram's all jacked up and I mean, I might probably pass it up. But haven't had that happen yet where I pass up an opportunity with a band. But I don't want my kids, seeing us playing with, because my kids have gone to a couple of our shows and I love that. I love them seeing Dad rock out. Because they're both getting into music now too. Like, I love it. And they're screaming some of my songs. I love it. I want them to, and they can't go to all the shows because they're young, but I want to, be that good role model example for them too, so I have I have that audience too, so they're like, yeah, why did you write this song? What's the song about? It's like, well, honestly, here's what it's about, and so I like having them as an audience too. So,
man, could you imagine writing a song called WAP and having your kids ask you what that's about?
No, you just gotta be careful with all that stuff, And I say a couple. I don't like swear in my songs, but I say like damn or hell, and so like they're like, "Ooh, Dad, you said hell." I'm like, I know. I'm so it's fun hearing them just kind of like pick up on those lyrics and all that, but.
Proud dad moment, though.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, we all have people in our lives who influence us, like your children. They seem to be a pretty big influence in your life. So, who are your influences as both an individual and as a musician?
Yeah. Goodness. I mean, I've listened to so much music. Like I said in the beginning, like, kind of the rock and roll as a kid, like Boston, REO Speedwagon, Cheap Trick. This band my dad likes called Wishbone Ash, long-term rock and roll band. But like, as I got older, I listened to more bands like I would say one of my bigger influences is a band called As Cities Burn. And like bands on like there's a band like a local Chicago band. I'm from Chicago, by the way. A local Chicago band called I don't think they're around anymore, but they were called the Felix Culpa. And God, I listened to them a lot in like high school and college. And but the heavier bands, like, I mean, I don't play like full on metal, but like August Burns Red, a band called The Chariot. Goodness, I mean, so like. But I would say As Cities Burn is probably the one band I relate to the most, lyrically and musically. But on a personal level, I mean, my mom is going through, my mom, who's currently going through cancer, who's doing well in chemo. But I think my mom has been probably the biggest personal influence in my life, since I was born, and so she's one person who I think tries to find light in dark places, especially with her cancer treatment right now. She's probably my biggest personal influence, without a doubt. So my mom, shout out to my mom.
Hi, Mom. Do you think she's watching right now?
I don't know. She knows I'm having this interview. But I don't know. If not, she might watch the replay of this, or the recorded version. So,
right on. I mean, I could always just tag her real quick. So when especially being that it's your band, it makes it easier where it's just one person thinking instead of thinking for the whole band. But what do you look for when you're looking for the people like the managers, the producers, and the promoters?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for someone who's not. I don't know. I mean, I haven't worked with a ton of promoters, but I look for good communication. Um, you know, does it take you 17 days to get back to me? Are you like pleasant to talk to? Are you personable? And then also like, what's your motive as the promoter? Like, is your motive just to make money? And so do you kind of like dismiss me and I'm just like a paycheck to you, right? Or do you kind of believe in this world? Do you believe in this profession? Like, so I look for all that stuff. Because if I can't talk to you and if I'm getting weird vibes that you're just kind of a different,
Shady.
yeah, exactly. Then I don't know. I'm not drawn to it. I had one promoter who canceled on us a couple times, and I was like, what's going on? Like, I don't like we're building these shows up, and then it just kind of falls apart. Like, I can't keep doing this anymore. So, but I understand things happen, but it was just sometimes you just gotta walk away from a promoter if you're getting that bad vibe.
Absolutely. And as a promoter, same goes with the band too. If they got the one band that they're like, oh yeah, we'll play, and then 2 or 3 times of canceling, it's like you're not going to play.
Yeah, we're done. Yeah, so
Not for me, anyways.
yeah, exactly.
So how about like producers and managers?
I mean, producers.
Or like if you had to go look for a manager.
Manager. If I had a manager, goodness. Yeah. Again, I think good communication. Someone who's personable, who's relatable, who is like easy to talk to, and they listen to your needs, but they're also like challenging you to like maybe spread like your platform a little bit. And because sometimes they're like, you might need to play a show here or a show there, or you may need to, drop this show to play this show instead because it's going to get a different. I don't know. So just being open or challenging you to be open. And then producer wise, I got a great producer as far as like, the albums, like, Barry with Rofo Records. I mean, he's incredible. I just kind of found him and we just hit it off. And so like he challenges me in the studio. He pushes me in the studio. He comes up with with ideas in the studio. Like, hey, try this harmony, or hey, like, that sounded like crap. Try it again. Or, and he's also open to my critique. Like, hey, he'll send me a mix. I'll be like, can you turn up the guitars in this mix a little bit? Or, hey, like, I played the wrong drum beat there. Can you like do some magic here and like fix that beat or whatever? So producer wise, he's great. And as long as he's alive and close to me, I'm going to be recording with him. But I just lucked out on that front. Yeah.
Yeah, challenge is one that I don't think I've heard yet on these interviews. Somebody that'll actually challenge you to, do better, be better, to get the best that you can, be the best that you can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's, I think, especially with my producer, I mean, he kind of knows what to expect now when I come in, but like, he's not just sitting there, just hitting record and just kind of like, all right, next instrument. All right, we're done. Like, he's involved. He's there. He's like present. He's like, this is a good song. And so, I really appreciate that out of a producer.
Right on. But then on the flip side of that, they're not being, or management wise, either one, you don't want somebody that's going to be so assertive that, it makes it feel like it's their project and not yours.
Exactly. Or like you're walking on eggshells, or you're afraid to make a move because like, oh no, what are they going to say? Absolutely. Yeah. I don't want that either.
That is one that I heard a couple interviews ago. And, that clicked. It's just like, that's, perfect sense, So you already have your recording studio, but if you had to look for a new one for any reason, what would you look for in a recording studio? Like, does technology matter, or what all do you look for?
Well, it's goodness, the technology is out of my wheelhouse. So I'm not looking for like what's their what's their rig look like, what kind of what's their recording software, all that stuff I don't know a lot about, but like as far as like I'm looking for, I don't know, I kind of like the more intimate studios, where it's even just like size wise, I want something kind of where the producer's like right over there, and where it's a smaller room. I kind of like I've recorded in like 3 studios, and so I like just the more intimate small studios, and I like where everything's within arm's reach. I like that, that it keeps you calm, like aesthetically, like the lights are low, there's some, cool artwork. I don't know. To me, that stuff helps you too. My current studio, he's got like cool lights and he can turn down lights and colors, and he's got like dehumidifiers going and like different, it's just, to me, that it calms me down and keeps me kind of in a good headspace. So I'll look for that if I were to ever go somewhere else, in a studio.
Okay. So out in my backyard, I got a wooden shack with some LED rope lights and old Sony boombox and a karaoke mic. Want to come and record some stuff?
Sure. I mean, if it gets me out of if I can gives me an excuse to go down to Oklahoma, absolutely.
No, I don't have the old Sony boombox, but I'm not really set up to record either. But I mean, it'd be good for recording some demos, anyways. But
Sure.
I don't know about anything that's like Pandora or Spotify worthy.
Right. Hey, I appreciate the invite. I'll hope to see that.
I mean, I do have a drum set in there, so I mean, we bring a guitar, or bass, or whatever, and we can just jam.
Perfect.
I'm always open for just jamming.
Awesome.
So how about venues? What do you look for in venues? In like size? You want bigger, smaller?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
we haven't played at a lot of big venues yet. I mean, I don't know. I look for, I like smaller venues. I mean, I think a lot of even bigger artists would say sometimes smaller venues, they're more like intimate. You can kind of get that vibe, like you're singing with the people, and not just to them. So I don't know if, I mean, I look for smaller venues. I look for a venue that, is well established, and, has a name for itself. And, I look at who's played there as well. And then also, lines of communication, right? Some venues like are really quick to respond, and we get a date set quickly versus other venues. It's like pulling teeth, and I just kind of like, all right, I don't have time for this. Like, you either want us or you don't. Just tell me if you don't like our music, I'll move on. But right. And then I like good lines of communication. Like after I got one venue in Lawrence, Kansas. It's called the Replay Lounge. They're super great. You get there and like everything's organized. You got the sound guys in communication with you, and then after the show, they're like, hey, stick around in 20 minutes. We'll get you your pay, and then and then you're not just sitting there like, wait, are they paying us? Or like, no, they're very good. Like, hey, give us 20 minutes, we'll pay you, and then you're free to go. So I don't like sitting around at a venue just wondering, like sitting there awkwardly, like are we? Is it okay if we go now, or like is someone gonna pay us? Or like, I don't want to be that kind of band. Like it's not all about money, but hey, if they're gonna pay us a couple bucks, like I'd rather get it now than have to.
Cash App or
whatever. So that's what I look for in a venue.
Okay. Now, when it comes to, you mentioned the sound tech, would you rather have one that's already got in-house sound, or would you rather hire or bring in your own sound equipment?
I mean, I think it's always ideal to have it all established there. I mean, that's always nice, especially when the guy knows the sound system or the person knows the sound system. They know the acoustics in the room versus bringing in like, a random person with a random sound system. I mean, not that they can't do a great job, but I just think for ease of transitions, it's one less thing that you have to worry about. Like when you show up to a venue, all the sounds already established, and the producer or the sound tech knows it. Just to me, it's like, it makes for a much smoother show, much smoother.
So would that be something that you might take into consideration? If I, Ozzy's backyard venue over here. Nice, decent size venue, decent setup, but no in-house sound. You just, plenty of hookups and stuff, plug in power, plug in microphones, whatever, but there's no sound equipment.
Yeah,
Would that be a hindrance for you? Like, would you rather go to this other venue down the road?
I would say it just kind of depends. I mean, there's been a handful of shows where we've had an outside person come in to run sound and it's gone fine. I mean, I would say it just kind of depends. And, I mean, I've got a little portable sound system downstairs, if worse comes to worse, if we need to like bring that with just to have a little show, I mean, I'm going to do that. Absolutely. We've got a show coming up and there's no sound system. Luckily, the one we have, I think will be fine for the need. And so it's like, I want to play a show. It's local. Get some people to hear us. Like, yeah, I'll pack up my stuff and then we'll just play a show. I mean, I'm not super picky and super stuffy. Like, well, I need an in-ear monitors and I need click tracks. And I'm not that picky. I mean, if someone wants us to play and the only issue is a sound system, I'll find a sound system. Usually. So, yeah.
Usually. Well, worst case scenario, there's always me. I mean, I wouldn't mind making a trip up to Kansas once in a while.
Right. There you go. Perfect.
Or I'll just bring you down here to Oklahoma, either one.
Perfect.
Or both.
Both. Yes.
Both. Okay. Now, you mentioned in-ear monitors. Do you prefer wedges or do you prefer the in-ears?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I've done both. I mean, as far as my band, we do wedges. Honestly, I would love to have click tracks and have like tracks running during our shows, because being a 3-piece band live, sometimes I'd like to have some of that space filled in with like pre-recorded guitar tracks and all that. Haven't done that, so for right now it's just wedges. I mean, but yeah, I've in-ear monitors, I mean, are great. But that takes practice too with a band. Like if we were just to automatically switch to like click tracks, and like that would take a lot, I think, more work to do as well. Like doing that transition. But I mean, I think professionally, I mean, that would be really cool to have that as a part of our show. And we just haven't done that. So.
Okay. So you mentioned on a really sensitive topic, not necessarily click tracks. There's a lot of drummers who are against click tracks, especially the old school drummers. Well, we didn't have click tracks back in the day. We did. Yeah. That's personal preference for the drummer,
right?
Or some of the musicians, but the tracks. You mentioned having, being that you're a 3-piece when you're live, but yet when you're recorded, you could be 100-piece because it's you and playing each part. So, unless you just have, a second guitarist that's playing that, that bass line along with the rhythm, and you take lead or, whichever, vice versa, or you're doing either A lead or lead B rhythm along with a bass player or any combination, you're missing out on one of those aspects of that song.
Yeah.
So when it comes to using tracks like that, especially playing live, talk to people that's out there that either they're against it, you're like, you're not trying to convert them over, but just like, hey, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Whether they're against it or they're just kind of, I don't know, on the fence, it's whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
talk to those people for a minute.
I mean, I think professionally speaking, I think if you want to have a like a perfected sound, I mean, like if you're really serious about playing live and taking this to the next level, I mean, I think you need a click track, at least minimum click track, and not to like say I'm cool, I use click tracks, but I mean, that's what everyone uses in the studio. I mean, so if you can use it in the studio, at least, I mean, you should be using it in the studio. I mean, if you want to tighten up your sound, I mean, you can hear it when a band's off or when they have sped up. I can hear it when my band speeds up,
Mhm.
and adjusting to that can be sometimes tricky, right? So to play to a click track, I think just takes the guessing game out of it. And then to even then had some tracks playing in addition. I mean, you hear bands live and then when they got tracks playing, you're just like, goodness, this sounds not better. It just sounds different. I mean, maybe better, but just sounds good. Like, and yeah, some people think, well, it's just like fake, like it's not live. Like, I understand that. Like, I get it. Sure. Like, you want to be raw, fine. I mean, and some bands love that. Some listeners love just the raw sound of a 3-piece, no frills,
Mhm.
nothing. Okay, fine.
Like Chevelle or
Yeah, yeah. But
but then you got bands like Falling in Reverse.
yeah, yeah. Or I think one band I like, Dayseeker. Have you heard of Dayseeker? No. Okay.
I haven't heard that name in a minute.
Well, yeah. I mean, they have a great live show, and they use a lot of
Mhm.
tracks, a lot of tracks. But I think it just makes for a great show. I mean,
Mhm.
maybe someone argue it's like over tracked during a live show, but I mean, my goodness, this sounds like they're like the album, like, and they're just,
Mhm.
so, um, but just kind of pick what's you pick what you like, and but I think at minimum, click tracks if you want to start to really solidify and tighten up your sound.
Absolutely. Um, like you said, I can hear it too. Slow down, speed up, whatever, and just like even if you can't catch exactly what it is, you can still tell that something's off.
So tell, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things that I see with the whole playing to backing tracks and stuff, I mentioned Falling in Reverse. Look at what they've done with the song um, Last Resort from
Mm-hmm.
Papa Roach,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take Disturbed playing Sound of Silence
Mm-hmm.
live.
Mm-hmm.
And so similar, except for the one was more written for the actual arrangement, the orchestral arrangement,
Yeah,
which was Sound of Silence.
yeah.
To where David and Disturbed, they're a lot, they're a bigger band that's been around for a while longer. They've got the income. They can tour with those additional members.
Mm-hmm.
Fallen in Reverse and Ronnie, different. They're a little bit smaller. No offense. The guy is amazing. I love him. Just no haters. That personal taste. But they haven't been around as long as Disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the income's not quite there. And plus, how he composed Last Resort is better. I think it's better with the, a little bit of the tracking with it for some of the strings
Mm-hmm.
than it is to bring string people, put them on your payroll
Mm-hmm.
just for that one part that could be used as a track.
Yeah.
And then another aspect that a lot of people don't even think about coming from the production side, time code.
Mm-hmm.
Like your cues on, your digital consoles, your mixers and stuff, and then your lighting, a lot of your light sets are built on
Mm-hmm.
time code where it's all pre-made and it's in time with the music that's already been, established. So everything has to be kosher. It has to be in line with it, with everything. And so, and especially, not to pick on them, but Falling in Reverse again on some of those stuff like Watch the World Burn and some of those where it starts out with some tracking and then it goes into that full blown melt your face off arrangement. If Luke isn't, there with that in his ear, knowing exactly when, and then, well, whether he uses click track or not, I'm not, just example. But then everything is right there with the lighting and the audio and stuff with that time code to throw the show off.
Yep. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
so it can be very beneficial. But if, like you said earlier, if that's not your cup of tea, you don't have to watch it.
Yeah. But I think if a band came in to a venue and they had like a rig, like an in-ear rig and lights, I'd be like, that's awesome. And I'd be a little jealous, be like, I want to be there one day, personally,
Yeah.
it just shows me a level of professionalism. Again, but they could suck. I don't know. But at first glance, you're like, okay, like, dang, like, okay, they're serious about this. So, because it takes work, time, money to invest in something like that. And so if you've got that already, it's like, all right, like, I'm looking forward to seeing what you got. So, but that's just me. So.
Yeah, if they do suck, if they put all that money into the equipment, not lessons,
Right. Exactly.
You better hope they have a good front of house tech.
Exactly.
So, here's a fun question. Not one to necessarily get people thinking, but just have fun with it. If you could play any one show with any artist and at any venue, even if it is not obtainable, with who and where would it be?
Oh, goodness. Well, with who? I could say, well, one of two venues. I mean, one venue I'd like to play at the new Sphere in Las Vegas, the Sphere venue. Have you heard of that? That'd be cool.
Yes.
Yeah. Or Red Rocks in Colorado. That'd be fun to play out there. With who? Oh goodness. I mean, probably. Goodness. Well, I don't know. A band I really appreciate and value right now is a band called Mammoth, WVH. Because he's kind of does what I do. He records the album by himself, and then he's got his live bands. I don't know. I love his music, and I really appreciate he kind of started like he's just kind of, yes, his dad's, God bless his soul, or God rest his soul is passed, but like, yeah, he's got kind of a backing of fans, but like he kind of started and said, like, if people like this, then go for it. But like, if he didn't really have, he just kind of went for it. And so I love his music, and I just kind of relate to a lot of what he does. So maybe Mammoth, and he's
in the Sphere.
Yeah, in the Sphere. I think that'd be a cool show. I mean, I think my band would make some time to go play a show there if we were playing with Mammoth.
Or if they were playing with you, or
Yeah, exactly. I
mean, could you imagine taking stage with them at the same time?
Man, that'd be awesome. And my drummer loves Mammoth, WVH. He saw him live last year with Creed. They opened for Creed, and I was kind of jealous, but yeah, they're a good band.
Okay. And hell, there's only one comment. Micah said, "Hey."
Hey, Micah.
So I guess nobody has any questions for you.
That's okay.
Yeah. So if there's any one thing that you could say to the industry, and it doesn't matter, what aspect, whether it's to the fans or, to other promoters or venues or whoever, ticket, I'm not going to say any names, but ticket companies, who would it be to, and what would you have to say to them?
Maybe just to everyone. I would just say, whether it's the industry or listeners and everyone in between. I don't know. I think behind every band are real people with real stories. And I don't know. Even with those artists that seem like super, super pushed and like, are maybe seem to be, I don't know, like overproduced, over whatever. I think behind all those big artists, like, even like the Taylor Swifts and the, behind, like, they're real people, and so I think just don't forget that, and so I think it just show a decent level of respect. And even for me, sometimes I find bands, I'm like, God, I don't like that sound. I don't like them at all. But doesn't mean that like I have a right to put that person down as like, just like, even Taylor Swift. I'm not a huge Taylor Swift fan, but my daughters are. But like I respect as a person. She's creating something that helps people. Okay, great. And so that's what I would say. That's how I would land that argument.
Or Nickelback. You mentioned Taylor Swift or
I mean,
Nickelback
goodness,
or Five.
yeah. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
Okay. Then, there's anything else you'd wish to say to add to this? The floor is yours.
I really appreciate you having me on. I've never done something like this before, and I know we're not a huge band, but it's nice just to talk about yet. Exactly. It's just nice to just get our voice out, kind of get our message out, get our music out, and just talk about the industry in general, So if any of you out there see this video or hear the video, check our music out. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora. We are branches, and we got Facebook and all that stuff and Instagram. So, just we appreciate you a lot having us today. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for being here. And so, to add to it, when I said yet, put a little bit of sax in your live shows and you'll make it big. No, don't quote me on that, please. Oh, Ozzy over there. Look, I got video proof. Ozzy said.
He said it. He said it. So, yeah.
It was just a suggestion.
Yeah, I thought about it.
So at least great minds think alike, and so do ours.
That's right.
So I do appreciate having you on. So I'm going to come over here and look at my schedule real quick. I have one today or this evening at 6 with a good friend of mine, Raven Revival. And then I have a really big upcoming Oklahoma band, Brigade. Like they just played Whiskey A Go-Go recently. They're coming up Saturday, April 12th at 6:30. Then there's Darian Morgan of Crimson Tempest coming up following Saturday, or 2 Saturdays, something, April 26th. So, got, plenty more good ones coming up. But I want to, what I've started doing, which is really fun, puts people on the spot, especially if you've never heard of the bands or artists before. I'm going to pick one, Brigade. I want you to ask them 1 or 2 questions.
Me?
That you want me to address in their show. Yes.
Oh goodness. Well, one question could be, I don't know, what's their main reason for doing what they're doing? What's their, I guess, underlying message? If they could tell their fans a message, what would their message be? Number 2, what do bands need to have to succeed? And that's a pretty big question, but what do bands need to do to succeed on kind of the bigger level?
Well, then, Uno reverse, and what is your answer?
To succeed as a band, I don't know. You got to just keep pushing. You got to not give up, keep reaching out to those venues, keep reaching out to bands, keep writing, keep recording, and keep doing what you love. So.
Right on. So I had Aquafire do this yesterday. You inadvertently answer, unless you cheated and you was listening yesterday. I'd asked you, what is your inspiration? Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it's a lot of life. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you'd want to add to what your inspiration is for your music? Where do you get your music from? The second half of that question.
Yeah, just personal life experiences, my own faith, and I think just pushing through the hard times, definitely.
Absolutely. And then the other question is, how have you evolved as a band?
Well, we've gotten more listeners, and I don't know. We've gotten. I mean, obviously, we've gotten better. We gotten tighter as a band, when we play. And I don't know. I think we just trust each other. And and then, but personally, I think I've evolved. I've just kind of got more confident in my writing, and I believe in what I'm singing and what I'm playing. And so I think that's evolved too. And just my confidence as kind of the front man, if you will. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sounds good. So again, I appreciate having you on here. It's definitely been fun.
Definitely. Well, we'll be in touch, and keep up the good work. And if I'm ever in the Oklahoma area, I'll give you a call. Okay.
Okay. Or I'll give you a call if I need you in the Oklahoma area.
Perfect. I love it.
Yes. All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. It's been Eric with We Are Branches. Find them on social media at We Are Branches. Find them pretty much any of your streaming platforms, and hopefully they get their stuff into Marshall Rock and be heard around the world.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll definitely reach out to them. So
no, on something local. So thank you again for stopping by, and thank you everybody that has either watched or will watch in the future. Hello, future. Thank you for stopping by, and it's been fun doing this.
See y'all.